Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program PvP. I'm 4040 and today we are doing another ship spotlight. These ships have been submitted by CEO Siphon Rayzar of Siphon Core, who will be joining Criax Industries in fighting off the evil Nightshade Industries and keeping an eye on Tuxedo's Industries as well. For the moment, his ships are being submitted to myself to use how I see fit, and so at the moment we're going to have a look at his ships and see if they're any good, see what our impressions of them are, and see if they need modifying in any way, shape or form. So the very first ship we're going to be loading in is called the Falcon 1 fighter all-round. This calls itself an all-purpose fighter designed not only to engage enemy ships but also to act as a tug when needed. So there we go. So let's scroll up. It's got its own launch stage already pre-built. This is all stock, which is brilliant. I like all stock stuff. So there we go. This is the Falcon 1 fighter. So as you can see, it's quite well armoured. It's got a large top cross-section shape. But other than that, it looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up in space, and then we're going to have a look at it a little bit more closely. So I'll see you in a second, guys. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back. So this is the Falcon 1. As you can see, it's an interceptor which is designed to stay up in orbit for fairly long durations. So to accompany that idea, looks like it has got plenty of fuel, which is good, but it doesn't have a massive amount of fuel. If I pull in F2 and kill that, because the wiggling is annoying me, the resources of there you go, liquid fuel and oxidizer. It hasn't got a massive amount of resources, so it is very obvious that the launch stage of this vehicle is designed to get this into orbit, and then once it is in orbit it stays in that local vicinity on that planet. Obviously has enough fuel to do inclination changes and to assault whatever target it needs to get close to. So talking about assaulting, it looks like it has several different sets of weapons. The first set of weapons are these small, high-speed projectiles, which do not look like they're explosive. They're literally just a little box there, and separatrons. Secondly, we have got the slightly lower speed but armor penetration. They've got these bars here, which are designed to punch into enemy armor and rip it apart. And the very, very last is this, what I would call anti-capital or anti-large class ship weapon, which decouples in its own right. It's that little area there, that's a MechJeb hidden inside, and then it can independently fly off and engage a target. So even if the pilot is perhaps dead, the little probe core body could avenge his death by flying off and doing the attacking in its own right. Looking across the rest of the ship, it does carry plenty of RCS. You've got the little nozzles here. It's a very nimble ship. He's put a lot of SAS modules on here, which means that for general flying about and manoeuvring, I don't need to do any RCS, turn any of the RCS on, which is brilliant because it saves on resources. I like using the RCS for getting clear to targets and doing fine control of before you fire your weapons. So yes, you've got two satellites to deploy. Very, very good. Very little compact, very nicely done satellites as well. This ship has its own onboard power generation, which, as you can see here, these little things here, and he's stuck some aerials on the front of there as well to make them look pretty cool, which they do as well. So without further ado, let's have a look at how well this ship performs when firing its weapons. So we're going to fire the high-speed missiles first, so let's have a look downrange, so to speak, and fire off our first one. So let's go to that, move that out of the way, and fire in 3, 2, 1, go. Wow, that's pretty good. And that went out very, very straight. I like that a lot. Now, let's see if there's any wobble when this fires. So, firing in 3, 2, 1, go. No, the superstructure sounds it's completely solid. Yes, that's definitely a very, very good launching platform that's been built there. The inner skeleton of the ship appears to be very, very strong, which is good for two reasons. One, because the armor is mounted on it, so it's good at resisting hits. And secondly, that the weapons will remain accurate. So let's fire off our last missile and let's see how accurate we can stay. So they're heading off there, 100 meters, 400, 500. Okay, so they're good up to about 300 or 400 meters. They stay nice and accurate, but beyond that they do tend to lose their accuracy, which is perfectly fine for small weapons. No problems there. So they're medium range weapons. So let's move on to our armor penetrating weapons. These are designed to hit ships that are either up armored or perhaps at least mildly inconvenienced large capital class ships where they have the ultra reinforced armor. So let's fire this off. They have more Separatrons, so they should go faster. So 3, 2, 1, fire! So there you go, you see them fire off that lovely X shape that the Separatrons create when they fire off. And again, let's have a look at the superstructure of the ship to see if it causes any wobble when they launch. None at all. Look at that, stable as a rock. I like that a lot. And so let's fire the last one off just for prosperity. And there we go, goes off there, and they stay accurate up to almost 1,000 meters. Those are very, very accurate. I like that a lot. Now, the added bonuses of this ship are that it's very well armoured at top and below, but once the missiles have been fired, and also before they've been fired, the cockpit is vulnerable from the top and the bottom. So if anybody manages to get a direct hit on the cockpit, the ship would be rendered defunct. And also, once the weapons have been fired, this whole side of the ship is open for somebody to fire at. But I have tested the ship a little bit beforehand. I used this weapon, which is literally you fly it as though it is another ship. You just fly it at your target, you decouple it and it flies off. I've tested this with the low impact with this on here to simulate a small weapon strike, and it just resisted it very, very admirably. At which point I scooted this off to about 400 meters and gave it a good long run up. So it was a high speed impact from a very large weapon, and I managed to get an almost direct strike on the cockpit, and the ship kind of broke apart. But, and I'm going to say this is a big but, it's a well designed ship and it should not really have to cope with being shot at by large anti-ship weapons, where it really is built to resist the small weapon systems due to the fact that it is a small ship. So I quite like this design. It's compact, it's nice, it could do with a little bit of extra armour perhaps on the side and above, but other than that, very well designed. And I do like the little extra hatch on the back which you can use to refuel or pull other ships around like a tug. So bear that in mind, we're going to have a look at our next ship. This is the Falcon 2, so the next generation of Falcon fighter, and already we can see a difference. It is a lot wider than the Falcon 1 and has got armour covering the cockpit above and below. Now the reason why this is with this is that the weapon system layout has changed. These the armour penetrating weapons mounted on the wings of the last fighter have been replaced by much larger weapons designed to smash through small ships and destroy large ships. So rather than just plink up the large ships and destroy small ships, you've got a much more well-rounded capacity of weapons for to deal with large ships and to deal with small fighters. So let's get into space and let's see how she handles. Bye. See you in a second. We've got the Falcon 2 into orbit, and well, I'd like to say that she's a lot heavier than her previous model. It has a lot wider profile, which means that potentially easier to hit, but that wider profile, like we said, covers a better complement of weapons, which I can see as being no big problem, so we know the width of the ship isn't that much larger, it's just a tad larger. Again, it looks like it has pretty much the same innards. I'm just going to turn that off. There we go. It looks like it pretty much has exactly the same innards to the other ship, except that it has, I think it has got a tad more fuel, but not by a huge amount. It still is carrying those 2 mini satellites, which I do like a lot. I do like my versatility. It appears to have it has more RCS than the last Falcon, mainly because that she is a lot heavier than the previous ship, and the SAS modules, the nose and the tail, have got a little bit more of a hard time trying to get the ship to move under its own power, so it really does need that RCS to help it move around in a quick dogfighting type style. But otherwise, it seems to be a very well designed ship. It's very well reinforced on the middle. There's lots and lots of struts I can see, and I like the fact that the cockpit is now completely covered from the top and the bottom, so eliminating the most dangerous parts of the most dangerous shots to the ship. so that even a glancing shot should bounce off and cause minimum damage to the cockpit, and that's what really is important with these ships. They're designed to protect the occupant of your cockpit, as they're supposed to be out there for quite a long time, potentially out hanging around to hostile planets is well, something that your pilots are going to have to do. Once again, the rear of the ship is quite open to attack, so if anybody shoots from directly behind the ship, all you've got is the structural rigidity of the cross members to try and hold the ship together. So against a particularly powerful shot or a very well aimed shot, this ship might be toast. But otherwise, looking pretty good so far. So let's have a look at our weapon systems. We've got slightly modified them. All the weapon systems have been upgraded. These fast weapon systems have got a little bit of extra weight added to them in these bars, and these bars are also quite strong, which means that when this hits the ship, it's got a high potential chance of exploding, because these are carrying on trying to push through it, and the game probably doesn't know where to send it, so it blows up instead. Again, it's got the decouplers as its main power source, and they should be able to work pretty fine. So let's fire it up and let's look down the nose of this. So let's fire our first missile off and see what happens, see how accurate she is. So 3, 2, 1, fire. There we go. Accurate, I'd say, out to about 200 meters. Maybe 300 meters, but it does veer off slightly there. But they move at a good speed, which is what you want to see. So let's fire the next one. Have a look at the ship's superstructure to see if there's any wobble. So fire. There you go. Note the ship stays completely stable. There's not any discernible wobble as I can see. So let's fire the last one just for the sake of firing it. So yeah, fire it. Yeah, that looks definitely nice and stable out to 300 or 400 meters there. So very well designed little rockets there. I'm sure they'd work very well in the Criax arsenal if I chose to use it. Right, so next up are the heavy weapons. They're toggled to action groups 4, 5 and 6 if I recall correctly. So let's fire the first one up. Again, looking down the end of the cockpit, and fire! Well, those go off at a lick, and they're accurate out to almost 1,000. Wow, those went off in a die straight line. You couldn't ask for more. Now those go off very fast. I'd hazard that they would go faster than these ones here. Now the ship is rotating slightly, which could indicate that these have moved it around a bit. But let's have a look to see how stable the actual firing platform that they're coming off. So let's fire the next one now. Yep, no discernible wobble in any kind, shape or form, which is brilliant for this ship. No problems whatsoever, which means you've got a very stable firing platform. And let's, just for the hell of it, fire the last one off. There we go, look at them. I would not like to be in the way of that kind of firepower. So they've definitely got some decent weapons on here. You've got lots of docking ports here for reloading, obviously. And you could refuel off these, although it would be a little bit difficult. But otherwise, it seems like a very competent ship. Like I said, my only slight downsides is the lack of armor on the rear, which you could possibly have some more plates here, but then again, you're only protecting the weapon systems. But I would have had some kind of angle plates in between the engine and this here, just to try and absorb some shots. And also, you've got no side armor here, so once the weapons have been fired and it's waiting to be reloaded, this ship is relatively vulnerable from the side. But altogether, a very well built ship, and it's very strong structurally. No discernible wobble, so I could assume that the hull, the outside hull, will be quite strong as well. And the likelihood of anybody getting a direct shot straight down the middle of this, as opposed to some kind of off the side shot, is a lot less than them just hitting it and glancing off. So altogether, I give this ship, it's a thumbs up really, and it looks very impressive from the sunlight as well. So I'll bring you back in when we have a look at the next ship. I'd like to introduce the Siphon Core Terminator class assault fighter. Now, unlike Interceptors, where they have got plenty of armour, assault fighters are a class of ship that has no armour whatsoever and is designed to head out to a target, offload as much firepower as possible, perhaps onto as many targets as possible, and then retreat home. So, without further ado, I'm going to get this baby into space, and we're going to have a look at her and see how she performs. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Terminator class assault ship. Now, already you can see that the main part of this ship is these weapons are damn impressive. This ship looks like it's got the firepower of one of my bombers, combined with the firepower of perhaps one of my assault spider ships. There's a lot of firepower there. This looks like an altogether very impressive ship, and once we manage to get it up here from the launch, it has plenty of fuel. It's got lots of fuel here, but also each of these exterior tanks as well holds lots of fuel, and they're all wired up to feed into these engines, which means that the interior tanks feed into the outside tanks before using up, which adds to the ship's stability because these are perfectly positioned in the middle, or at least it feels like that to me. The ship also carries plenty of RCS, which it kind of needs to, because fully loaded, she's a heavy old bird. She only has one SAS there and one SS at the bottom there, by the looks of it, which means that it has a lot of trouble actually managing to turn, which, you know, it's a heavy old bird. It's got lots of weaponry. You can't really say much worse than that, and the RCS is perfectly adequate with being able to cope with it being quite heavy. Beyond that, it has no armour. Well, that's because it's an assault ship, so we don't need to worry about talking about armour, and it's got plenty of resources. So let's talk about the important thing, the weapons. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring up that HUD. There we are, and we're going to fire the first few weapons, which are the small weapons. So, firing for effect in 3, 2, 1, fire. There we go. They fire for a nice ring shape. It's very nice shape there. It's good to catch anything that's in the way, so even if you're slightly off target, they should hit them. And they appear to be accurate out to a set distance. So let's have a quick look at the actual ship itself. Does it move when we fire? Is there any big jerking or anything? So fire. None whatsoever. That's absolutely stable. That's brilliant. Another very stable firing platform. CEO Rayzar has obviously put a lot of effort into making sure his ships are very stable. He's obviously recognised that fact as being one of the key instruments of an assault ship. Is basically, that's all it is. It's a firing platform, so it really should be stable. So let's fast forward very slightly just to move those rockets out of the way, so we can fire our next batch to see how much on the straight and narrow are they. There we go, and they are perfectly good out to, wow, they went out to about 600 meters before they started veering off, and even now there's some of them are going still in a straight line. So it's a very, very stable ship. So let's go to the heavy weaponry. Now this weaponry, these large ones, are exactly the same type of design and setup as I have in my bombers, and my capital ships usually have these in line down the sides of each ship as its own personal onboard cannon. So I know what I'm expecting from these kind of weapons. The only type of modifiers that would be is if the ship itself flexed somehow or was somehow unstable, which with the amount of structure reinforcing here, I have no indication that it will be. So let's fire the first one off and have a look, see how it behaves. Firing in 3, 2, 1, fire. There we go, it fires off in a particularly straight line. There's a bit of explosion here, and that is because this particular bit here is destroyed on launch, thus saving the rest of the module behind it. That's all perfectly normal, and yep, those are going off on a nice straight line. So let's have a look at the ship and fire the next one and see if there's any kind of flexing which would affect its accuracy. None whatsoever. Look at that, the ship is perfectly stable, hardly anything wrong there, and yep, those fly off in a relatively straight line. We know the performance of these weapons once they're launched. They're good to about 300 to 400 meters. So let's fire that last one off just for the sake of firing it. Yeah! Love these. I love these large weapons. They're very impressive. They're good at taking down small ships as well, because all you need is a glancing hit is to tear apart a small ship. But they're purely designed to hit the large ships. And let's fire off the rest of those small weapons. There we go. And there we go. So that's all of his expended payload gone. And once you've expended all of this craft's payload, you can see that there's a decoupler here, and there are parachutes around the cockpit because, of course, as an assault ship, it is designed to go into a mission, fire for effects on everything it can find, and then come back home and allow its pilot to basically decouple from the mothership as it burns up in the atmosphere, and then fly safely home under parachutes and be rescued. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do this over an enemy state, but you definitely want to do this over your own territory, and, well, this craft pretty much ticks all the boxes. It's flexible enough to carry lots of different types of payload. It is stable, it carries lots of fuel, and it's got a pilot rescue kind of mechanism as well. So I give this 100% thumbs up, and I'm seriously considering adding this to Armory, because I don't have something that's this flexible and has this much payload on it for my own personal use in Criax Industries. So this is definitely something that you may see further on in Series 2 or perhaps even Series 3. So keep your eye out for this one. I might make one or two little tweaks, but I can't really see anything right now that is obviously glaringly bad with this. So definitely a thumbs up for this ship. Anyway, we'll bring you back in a second for the next and last ship. The Halcion class cruiser, and its description is, it is designed to be midway between a dreadnought and a fighter. Now, dreadnoughts are pretty much just gunboats, which are pretty much what this is designed to be, and a fighter, which are small ships. This description is quite modest. This definitely looks like it's a dreadnought in my class. It's got plenty of thick armour, and it's pretty much designed to do one purpose, which is mess up ships that are bigger than it. It is medium weight, well-armed vessel, and it's designed to take a beating and throw it back at the enemy. So I'm going to get this into orbit, and then we're going to have a look to see how well this behaves. We have managed to get the Halcyon class cruiser up into orbit, and initially this looks like what I would call to be a dreadnought. For me to be able to classify it as something else. It's described as being halfway between a dreadnought and a fighter. I'd say this is a true capital class ship, because it's pretty big and it's got more firepower and is bigger than my first generation of dreadnoughts. So let's bring out our solar panels as we're nicely in the sun. As you can see, the ship is well armoured on the back, on the sides, and even is well armoured on the front. There's not too much lag on my computer with this system, so this is a much better option for me if I wanted to just fire and kill other capital class ships than taking up perhaps my assault carrier, which does have a lot more lag. But then again, my assault carrier is larger and can go further out on her main propulsion engines. So let's, before we do this, as it's a capital class ship, let's activate her communications. There we go, so you can see them opening up on the front there, which means this ship can operate under the rules of engagement for my PvP series, as independently of having any kind of satellites. And if I bring, there we go, and we put the lights on as well. So the lights are there obviously to light up any target that I decide to fire at. Altogether, it appears to be well armoured ship, plenty of structural within there. We've got lots of fuel tanks. We've got a decent amount of fuel. It's not a large amount of fuel, but then again, with these large ships, it's a trade-off with firepower versus actually how big the ship gets, because obviously the bigger the ship, the harder it is to hit. But it looks like the inside, this large empty area where the weapons are kept, is also armoured on the inside, covering up the fuel tanks. And right in the middle there, right behind this main armament, is the single occupant. For this to be workable in my own PvP series, I would have to add another command pod somewhere on this. I'm thinking possibly on the exterior, maybe up on top there, or replacing this particular little girder section here. So, well armoured, lots of docking ports, lots of small docking ports as well as large ones. She can act as a kind of mothership. So let's get straight, we've got ladders, let's deploy our ladders. Hopefully we won't lag out too much. No, there we go. So we've got the communications, the solar panels, the ladders, we've got engine toggles all working out fine. So we've got action groups for the weapons. It appears that we've got single shots and double shots for the weapons, but we also have these independently controlled, independently navigated weapons which can fly to a target and then take it out. Have we got a... Yes, we've got an engine. So this would fly out to its target. Fly out to its target using its engine, and when it got close, it would activate these for additional speed boost and impact with the target, hopefully taking it out. So I like these small deployable weapons. So let's fire off our first shot just to see what happens. So single shot 1. There we go. I'm going to retract our solar panel so we can see what's going on better. And firing in 3, 2, 1, go. So we've had a successful launch. That's a single shot successful launch. Yeah, that's fired up perfectly fine. Let's fire the other single shots. So there we go, fired, and away she goes. That's perfectly fine. The ship looks perfectly stable when it's firing, so let's fire the last one and see if there's any kind of buckling or moving. Oh, that's interesting. That appears to have snapped. I think that's what's actually attached to them. So let's let these drift out of the way. That could be a design, a little bit of a design fault there, but nothing that a few seconds and they shall clear the ship. There we are. Let's fire the last single shot. There we go. And now that's been fired, we have got the crew command pods there, clearly indicated. Now he's not going to be able to see out the front of this because you've got a large docking port in the way. So let's fire our double shots, shall we? So 3, 2, 1, fire! Yep, they seem to launch perfectly fine, and again they perform exactly like we expect these type of weapons to perform, so it's a nice smooth launch. I suspect the idea is to fire a single shot to make sure you've got it lined up and then fire the double shot, so I'm probably firing these in the wrong order. But those... Oh! Ah dear, there appears to be quite a lot of wobbling with these. The ship needs... You can see the thrusters firing as well. So potentially we'd need to wait for these to settle down before we could fire these again. So no quick shooting with these, unfortunately. Perhaps that the interior of these launch tubes could perhaps be reinforced a little bit more. But I don't think it will be too much of a problem, because once the ship is stabilised and settled back down again, and this is the last weapon to be fired, I think the shock of it is causing the tethers to snap, and you can see one drifting off there. There's the other one, there we go. So, firing the last one in 3, 2, 1, and let's let her rip. There we go, they both exit the launch tunnel perfectly fine. No damage appears to be done to the ship at all. There you go, and you can clearly see now. There you are, we can clearly see the inside of the ship. You've got lots and lots of RCS. I thought these were armoured, but never mind, that was my mistake. It looks like these are just perfectly in line, which means you could use this as a carrier as well as a mainline ship. I could have a very small ship come in and dock with any one of these as well once it has fired its main load. So just thinking ahead, I quite like the idea of the ship, and I could retrofit this into a carrier because it has got its own defensive subsystems. So let's try launching one of these defensive subsystems. So without further ado, I'm going to decouple my node. There we go, and I'm going to swap to my little guy here. There we go, and let's go plus. Oh, don't break. There we go. If I could get in to activate that little engine, that'd be perfect. Let's just kill the rotation. There we go. Let's activate my little engine now and take us away from the ship. So I can imagine that this would be something that I could fly out to, or get close to an enemy ship, fly this off, and then use this to independently hit an enemy ship. Well, guess what? I am going to be hitting an enemy ship. This ship, in fact. 100 meters to go. There we go, and... Okay, well it's managed to resist its weapon. I did not manage to get that to activate it. Activate those, but they did come off. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I don't know why they didn't want to fire. There we are, we're back with our ship now. So, all in all, I think this is a very well designed ship. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I suspect it might be something to do with my computer as opposed to the actual dirtiness of the control. I don't know where he's buzzing around, but he's around here somewhere still. But yeah, this ship with no damage whatsoever managed to absorb a shot from about 500 meters away. So this would quite happily absorb perhaps a higher impact shot from closer range. So definitely proof against small weapons, proof against large weapons. I'm not too sure. It might suffer some damage, but it appears to be well armoured from all angles to try and take any shot. So it's a general thumbs up and appears to be a very capable ship with multiple types of armament. So I like it a lot. Well, that has been a ship spotlight. I have been 4040. I'm going to leave you with the Halcion class cruiser. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please hit the like button. If you've not enjoyed this, please hit the thumbs down button and leave a message and let me know just how you would like this to be changed or what I did wrong. And thank you for watching. I've been 4040 and these have been ships made by Siphon Core. So if you guys have got any ships that you would like me to look at, just comment down in the video and I'll see if I can have a look at a selection of ships I like the look of, perhaps next time I do a ship spotlight. Anyway, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.